Here are some angles. Put the angles in order of size, starting with the smallest. Write the correct letters in the boxes. One has been done for you. So the smallest angle is angle B, because an angle is what we get when two lines join. And we can see that with angle B, there is very little space in between the two lines. Then we have angle A, because there's slightly more space between the lines than there was for angle B. Angle E is next smallest. Then we have angle C, because we have more space between our two lines. And then our largest angle is angle D, because for this angle we have a large amount of space between the two lines, so D is our largest angle. Alfie collected information about the pets owned by children in his class. Here are his results. This bar chart shows the information from the table. Fill in all the missing labels. So we can see from the table that the number of pets was most for fish. So that means the longest bar will be fish. Then the next largest number is 12, and that's the children who owned cats. So the next largest bar, this bar here, will be for cats. Then we have 9 as our next largest number, and that's dog. So on our next largest bar, we can write dog underneath. And then 5 is the smallest number, and that's rabbits. So we can write rabbit underneath the smallest bar. But now we need to fill in these numbers here as well. So we know that 12 children had cats, but if we look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines for our bar. Now 12 divided by 6 is 2, so that means that each line must represent 2 pets. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and that makes sense because the bar for cat has a total of 12, and we can see that 12 children had cats. And then we can check dog is between 8 and 10, and that makes sense because 9 children had dogs. Round each number in a box to the nearest 100. So they've told us that 627 rounded to the nearest 100 is 600. Now we have 472, and when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we need to find our hundreds digit, which is always the third digit from the right, and we can underline our tens digit, because that decides whether we round up or down. Now if it's 5 or more, we round up, and we have a 7, so we're rounding up, which means the 4 in our hundreds will turn into a 5. So that means 472 to the nearest 100 is 500, and that makes sense because it's closer to 500 than it is to 400. Now we have 412. So again, we can circle our hundreds digit and look at our tens digit. We have 1 as our tens digit, and if we have 4 or less, we round down. And when we round down, the digit that we've circled stays the same. So this 4 will stay a 4, meaning that 412 will round to 400. And that makes sense because 412 is closer to 400 than it is to 500. This table shows where 100 people went on holiday in 2007 and 2008. How many more people went to Wales than to Scotland in 2008? So we can see that 2008 is this column here. So we can see that 28 people went to Wales in 2008 and 13 people went to Scotland. Now the question asks how many more, so we need to find the difference. And to find the difference, we subtract. 28 minus 13 is 15, So that means 15 more people went to Wales than to Scotland. Now, which country had the greatest increase in visitors from 2007 to 2008? So increase means getting bigger or more. So we can see that for Spain, in 2007 there were 18 people, but 2008 had 26 people. So that's an increase because 26 is larger than 18, and 18 plus 8 is 26. So the increase for Spain is 8 people. But for England, the number in 2008 is smaller than the number in 2007. So that's not an increase at all. That's a decrease in the number of people going to England in 2008. And for Scotland as well, we have a decrease, not an increase, because the number is getting smaller, not larger. For Wales, we have 19 and 28, so that's an increase of 9, because 19 plus 9 is 28. And for the USA, we have an increase of 12, because 4 plus 12 is 16. So that means the USA had the greatest increase in visitors from 2007 to 2008, because the number increased by 12. Seb saved up for a new skateboard that cost £40. The table shows how much money he saved each week. In which week did Seb reach half the amount he needed for the skateboard? So we need to find in which week he reached half of £40. So first, we need to work out what is half of £40. Well, to find a fraction of a number, if the numerator is 1, we need to divide by the denominator. And 40 divided by 2 is 20, because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and if we have an end zero in our dividend, we need an end zero in our answer. So because half of 40 is 20, we need to find in which week did Seb reach £20. So in 1 week, he'd saved £5, and then in week 2, he saved another £4. So that's £9 altogether, because 5 plus 4 is 9. Then if we add another £2, that's £11 altogether. Another £4 makes £15, because 11 plus 4 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18, and then 18 plus 4 is 22. So that means in this week, in week 6, he'd managed to save over £20. So he'd reached half the amount he needed for his skateboard. So that's week 6. The time is 10:35 a.m. Kate says the time is closer to 11 a.m. than to 10 a.m. Explain why Kate is correct. So there are 60 minutes in an hour, and if it is 10:35, that is 35 minutes past 10 o'clock, but only 25 minutes until 11 o'clock, because 35 plus 25 is 60, so 60 minutes will take you to the next hour.